Iran never lost a World Cup match in 2026. They drew with New Zealand, they held Belgium to 0-0. They drew with Egypt, 3 points, unbeaten, and they went home anyway. But by the time the final whistle blew in Seattle, the captain of the Iranian national team had already told the world everything he needed to say about what this tournament had been. It's a disaster World Cup. A disaster. Those were Mehdi Taremi's words. Not frustration, not hyperbole, a verdict. Delivered to the cameras outside Seattle Stadium by the most experienced player on a squad that had done everything football asked of them and still couldn't escape the weight of everything that football had nothing to do with. This is the story of Iran's 2026 World Cup. And the question that it leaves behind, unanswered and uncomfortable, is the one Taremi asked out loud after the Egypt match. Who wants to help us? Who? Just mention one name for me. Nobody has yet given him a satisfactory answer. To understand what happened to Iran at this tournament, you need to go back further than the first match. Further than the base camp. Further than the border crossings. You need to go back to February 28, 2026. The day the world changed in a way that transformed a football tournament into something no one had navigated before. That morning, military conflict began between the United States and Iran. Within days, Iran's supreme leader was dead. The country was in a state of open conflict, with the nation hosting the World Cup its football team had qualified for. Iran's sports minister went on state television. His message left no room for interpretation. Under no circumstances, he said, can we participate in the World Cup. FIFA's response was swift. Gianni Infantino addressed it at the FIFA Congress in Vancouver in late April, opening with the Iran question directly. I am confirming straight away, he said, that of course Iran will be participating. What followed was a negotiation without parallel in the history of the tournament. The Iranian Football Federation produced a formal list of demands. Visa guarantees, correct playing of their anthem, respectful treatment of their flag, safe passage throughout the competition. FIFA agreed to what it could. The United States agreed to what it was willing to. And the gap between those two things is where Iran's 2026 World Cup actually lived. Their original base camp had been arranged in Tucson, Arizona. Months of preparation, a facility assessed and confirmed, schedules built around it. Then the United States government announced that the Iranian squad would not be permitted to stay overnight on American soil for the duration of the tournament. Not in Tucson, not anywhere. The solution that emerged was Tijuana, the Mexican border city directly across from San Diego. Iran would train there, sleep there, and for every match day, they would wake up in Mexico, cross an international boundary, play a World Cup match, and cross back. Every single time. Think about what that looked like. Every other team at the tournament arrived in their host city, settled in, prepared, and walked to the stadium when the moment came. Iran crossed a border, before and after every match, carrying the specific uncertainty that accompanies international movement when your country is at war with the nation you are crossing into. And it was worse still. 11 senior Iranian officials were denied visas to enter the United States. Not fringe figures, support staff, logistics coordinators, kit managers, the people responsible for the operational infrastructure that professional football teams depend on for preparation, recovery, and the thousand small details that separate adequacy from excellence. When Taremi stood in front of cameras after the Egypt match, he wasn't speaking abstractly. He was describing specific, daily, documented reality. No kitmans, he said. No media. No logistics people. No one. FIFA confirmed that Infantino had visited the Iranian dressing room after the New Zealand match. He told the players their problems would be solved, that help was coming, that it was just the beginning. The group stage finished the next day. The problems had not been solved. The 11 officials without visas were still outside the country. The border crossings continued. The recovery that professional athletes require between tournament matches remained compromised. The beginning Infantino had referenced never became anything else. Taremi told the cameras what Infantino had said in that dressing room, and then he said what had followed. FIFA did nothing, he said. Our logistics don't work here. And then he asked the question that nobody answered. Who has to solve this problem for us? Who? FIFA? The US? Who? Just mention one name for me. He waited. Nobody mentioned a name. But here's the thing that makes Iran's tournament genuinely remarkable, rather than simply painful. Despite all of it, they competed. The New Zealand match opened with the resilience that would define the group stage. Iran went behind. They equalized. They fell behind again. And in the final minutes, they produced the second equalizer that kept their tournament alive. 2-2. A draw that felt, in the context of everything surrounding it, like something more than a draw. Against Belgium, third-place finishers at the 2018 World Cup, Baron Vond produced a goalkeeping performance that the football world hadn't seen coming. 7 saves, man of the match by popular vote. Thibaut Courtois exchanged shirts with him after the final whistle, in the specific acknowledgement that professional goalkeepers offer each other when they recognize something exceptional. Belgium created 23 chances and scored 0 goals. 0-0. A point Iran had no right to earn, and earned completely. Against Egypt, in what would become their final match, Iran competed with everything they had. Taremi missed an early penalty. It was saved. Rezaian equalized after Egypt had taken the lead. And then deep in stoppage time, Iran had a goal. The ball hit the net. The players celebrated. The bench erupted. And then the VAR review came. Offside, by the thinnest margin the technology can detect. The goal was ruled out. Iran walked off that pitch with 3 points, unbeaten, knowing their fate was in the hands of other matches. They needed Austria or Algeria to win their Group J finale. They packed their bags and crossed the border back to Tijuana, and they waited. The Austria versus Algeria match in Kansas City produced 96 minutes that the football world will be discussing for years. Not because of what it meant for Iran, because of what it was as pure football. Austria led. Algeria equalized. Austria scored. Algeria equalized again. 2-2 as the clock entered stoppage time. Algeria were on the verge of advance. Austria were on the verge of elimination. And then, in the 3rd minute of added time, Riyad Mahrez received a pass from Houssam Aouar and finished with the precision of a player who has been doing exactly this for his entire career. 3-2. Algeria leading. Austria going home. And in Tijuana, in the hotel where Iran had spent the tournament, the mathematics had just shifted in their favor. For approximately 3 minutes, Iran were going through. And then, Rangnick made his last substitution. On came Sasa Kalajdzic, the 6'6" striker who had spent much of the tournament on the bench, waiting for exactly this kind of moment. Gregoric headed the ball into the box. Kalajdzic met it. 3-3, 96th minute. Both Austria and Algeria went through. Iran did not. Taremi's response, when the result was confirmed, was not surprise. It was not a breakdown. It was the specific, quiet devastation of a man who has been fighting for 3 weeks against something larger than football and has finally reached the end of the road. His post-match comments about Infantino's dressing room visit are worth sitting with. He described the FIFA president coming in after New Zealand, full of assurances, promising the problems would be solved. And then he described what followed. The group stage ending with 11 officials still without visas, with the teams still crossing the border after every match, with no kitmans, with no logistic support, with recovery compromised before every fixture. It's just the beginning, Infantino had said. It ended without the promises being kept. Iran's coach Galenaway was equally direct in his post-match press conference. He said he believed Infantino had tried, but trying and delivering are different things. He called on FIFA to ensure that future host countries are not permitted to treat participating teams the way Iran had been treated. He said the behavior of the host had been really terrible. He said he hoped the world would be aware of it. And he said that what his players had achieved, competing with honor under conditions no World Cup squad had ever faced in quite this combination, should be written in history. That last statement is not hyperbole. It is an accurate description of something genuinely unprecedented. A national team, competing while their country was at active war with the tournament host, operating from a base camp across an international border, managing substitute logistics without their full coaching staff, crossing a national boundary before and after every match, performing at a level that left them unbeaten through the group stage. 3 points, unbeaten, eliminated. The question that Iran's 2026 World Cup forces into the open is one that football has been reluctant to ask directly. Not because the answer is obvious, because it isn't. Did Iran's difficulties outside the stadium cost them the qualification they deserved on the pitch? The cramping and mild conditions that Galenaway described after the New Zealand match. The absent logistics staff that Taremi named specifically in his post-match comments. The compromised recovery that comes from crossing a border after every match, rather than sleeping in the city where you played. These are not abstract complaints. They are specific, documented, operational disadvantages that no other team at the tournament faced. With the difference between a draw and a win against Egypt, the result that would have sent Iran through automatically, have been found in a normal preparation environment? Nobody can answer that with certainty. Football doesn't work on certainties. But Taremi said something that demands engagement rather than deflection. Small details affect football, he said. Recovery is one of the important things. And then he said, that's not about the games. We did our best during 90 minutes. We complain about outside the football because the details are important in football. That is not the complaint of a player making excuses. That is the observation of a professional athlete who understands the margins involved in high-level competition and is describing, accurately, the ways in which those margins were not equal for his team. FIFA's official position throughout was that the organization's stance on Iran was no different than its position on all other teams. A spokesperson confirmed this to reporters before the Egypt match. What FIFA did not address was the factual reality that the operational conditions Iran experienced were different from every other team at the tournament. Confirming equal policy is not the same thing as delivering equal conditions, and that gap between the policy statement and the operational reality is the gap in which Iran's World Cup lived and ended. The tournament will remember the 96-minute header that sent them home, the goal that completed a 3-3 draw in Kansas City and left a team unbeaten in group play, watching the World Cup continue without them. But what deserves to be remembered alongside it is the border crossing every match day. The 11 officials who never arrived, the recovery sessions that couldn't happen, the logistics staff that weren't there, the kit managers and the media coordinators, and the operational support that professional football squads at a World Cup are supposed to have, and that Iran squad did not. And the captain, standing outside Seattle Stadium with the cameras pointing at him, asking the only question that the tournament left him with. Who wants to help us? He played for his people, he said. He wanted to bring them joy. He wanted to send them a message of peace. And he did all of those things, across 3 matches and 3 border crossings, and a campaign that required more of its players than any World Cup campaign should reasonably ask. Iran went home unbeaten, and the question Taremi asked is still waiting for an answer. What do you think? Did Iran deserve better from FIFA and the tournament organizers? And when a team competes under these conditions and still finishes unbeaten, what does that say about what they might have been capable of if the playing field had actually been level? Leave it in the comments. These are the conversations this channel exists for.